My name is Tihomir Lazić. I come from Serbia and I study theology at Oxford University. I'm doing the second year of my doctoral degree. And parallel to that, I'm teaching music, piano and singing at Newbold College, UK, and giving classes here at Oxford also. My earliest memories about music reach far into my childhood. I could still hear the voice of my grandma singing the old Dalmatian songs while baking the cake in a kitchen. Then I could remember an old worn-out audio tape, which we got as a present from my aunt, tape with the kids' music, and we listened to that tape day and night. Also, I could remember the excitement which my sister and I had when we realized that the old radio in my father's carpenter shop could actually record our voices. I could barely wait for next holiday for my cousins to come because we are used to harmonize, to make harmonies together. And I was dreaming how we're going to record this on this old radio. And also probably the special place in my memory is left for family meetings, Friday night family meetings, where we stood around piano and sang for hours together. So even early in my life, I realized that music is much more than just a collection of sounds and waves which we perceive by our ears. It transcends human mind and goes beyond our power to comprehend it totally. And because my main drive in life was the sense of wonder and adventure, which comes from exploring the unknown, music was something which is unknown to me and which awakened the sense of wonder. And that's why it captured my attention. And I knew that I didn't know in which form it's going to be present and to what extent, but I just knew that music is going to follow me in my life. I tried to unpack this gift of music by playing in double bass in a local orchestra, and then by going to music school, and then I sing in choirs and singing groups, and my first singing group was Credo. That's where I get my first solo. I remember being so nervous about it that I actually woke up during the previous night, and I was sweating and I was scared that I'm going to blow it up. I like the definition which was given by some contemporary writers that worship represents a whole life response of the creatures to their creator. The whole life, meaning involving all the human capacities, involve the whole human being, as Luther said, totus homo. That means that we engage our senses, we engage our emotions, our mind, our actions, and we react to divine relational initiative in history. And I think this definition gives a wide framework within which we can understand what the meaning of worship is. And it goes against some of the narrow-minded definitions that it's just a corporate act which lasts for 1 hour during the divine service at 11 a.m. And it lasts 1 hour. No, worship is much more than just this corporate participation in this act. It involves this as its culmination, but worship is more the matter of lifestyle. It's the way you think, the way you act, the way you feel about God. There are some people who try to impose their own style and interpret their style as being God's, and then they try to impose it on other people. What they're trying to do is to create God according to their own image. They're looking down the well, and in that water they're seeing their own reflection, and they're having the dialogue with themselves. That's what we are doing sometimes. What we like, we impose on the other group. But even though we come from different cultures, we have different tastes, I think there are certain criteria here which should be mentioned. As we mentioned in the previous definition of worship, that worship involves the whole life response to God. That means that our worship has to be our natural response to God. It has to involve the emotions, but also it has to bring the rational element into it and to inspire for action. If it's just emphasize the emotion and boost the emotions, I call those songs 7-11, 7 words 11 times, where our mind is not reached, only our heart. And what happens after that worship services is you go home empty. I think a good songs should be the ones which reach equally the human mind and human heart, and not only that, so you feel good, but inspires you for some concrete action in your daily life. That's when I think that these are certain criteria within which we could evaluate the value of certain music in a worship. I like the song, "All to Jesus I surrender, all to Him I freely give." So always when I hear those words, especially this part of the song, I remember the verse in Chronicles 16:9, which says that God's eyes are looking all around the world, trying to find the heart which is totally turned toward Him, so He can show His power. And this is easy mathematics, Sometimes we wonder, why don't we see more power in the divine action initiative in this world? Because we don't open our heart totally to Him. And worship is actually a perfect opportunity to open the whole being to God. And this is the way how God actually can manifest Himself to the present world. I realized by listening to Christian music in the last few years that they are often done from the epic perspective. That means from the perspective of a spectator who is somehow outside of the story, and he is expressing the timeless truths about God, and from the perspective of somebody who knows the end of the story. So he's not involved, and life is much more messier, life is much more confused, and sometimes it can sound even naive just to sing about those truths which are not embodied in this world. That's why I try now to think in terms of dynamic categories. I call this theodramatic horizon. What does it mean? We are actually involved in drama, in a play, and we are involved in our whole life. We are going into this motion. We are going to different stages in history, in time, in place. And in those different stages in our life, we experience God differently. We experience Him differently in this situation, and then maybe differently in other situation. And we are dramatically involved into this interaction. And worship and our songs actually explain this drama which is happening between us and God. And that's why I prefer thinking about our life and about music and even the future album as certain kind of drama expressed through music. I decided not to rush with this album, but to allow my life to write it. And as God said, I will be who I was, I will be who I'll be. And he when He defines Himself, He stays open, because basically what He says is, let me choose who I will be in your life. So that means when I want to define my own identity and my own action and the nature of my album, I also have to be open towards that changeable dynamics between God and me. So it depends on the situation, it depends on God's action, initiative. W, water. O, opera. R, relationship. S, song. Age, that's hard, horizon. iPod. P, do I have association for this? Pineapple. I think that our definition of worship, which involves the whole life response, brings some responsibility for us also. It basically says that the center of our life should be God, and the center of our worship will actually be, if the center is God, the center will be other people, and our intention will be to draw them closer to God. I like the quote of Martin Luther, who said that gospel is like a caged lion. You don't need to defend the lion, just release him. The same thing with worship. We don't have to defend the worship and to call people and to insist that they should come to our church worship. We should just live the life of worship, release the power of the worship, and it will attract people to God successfully. So what would be my final call or appeal would be, respond to God in all the possible means. Whatever gift you have, if you cannot sing or play, use the gift you have to glorify Him and to play your role in this theodrama with God.